Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Belisle, and you are listening to or watching Radio Maine, our video podcast where we explore and celebrate creativity and the human spirit. Today I have with me in the studio Emily Sabino, who I'm not sure exactly what your title is, but I know that you are an individual who is an abstract. You are engaging in abstract representational painting.
Yes.
So you're an artist.
Right.
So I think that's what I will say. I'm in the studio here with Emily Sabino, artist. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes. Well, you and I have had the good fortune to overlap many times over the years, mostly through the Portland Art Gallery. Yeah. But then most recently, I think the last time I talked to you, you had this major life change. And I thought, wow, this is an individual that I need to get to know a little bit better because clearly she has been just blooming creatively. So let's start there. Let's start with what in 2025 is new and interesting for you.
Well, I quit my kind of big bad day job that I'd had more or less since 2011 and kind of dove into painting full time, which was not an easy transition, but I'm really glad I did. So, yeah.
Well, and not only was it, so for 15 years-ish, you were doing this work, but you were doing a really different type of work, creative, but it wasn't painting.
Right. I was a director of pricing and project management at a very large international law firm. And so there were just all of these hops through different departments there, but it was, no matter what my job title was, I was pretty much a crisis manager. So people may remember during the pandemic, a lot of different companies thought, oh, we're going to go under. We don't know what's going to happen. But in legal, what happened was a lot of that upward transfer of wealth that happened meant that there were a lot of companies that wanted to, like big fish eat little fish, buy a lot more companies. And so law firms were just hugely in demand after they'd fired about a quarter of their staff. So those of us who were doing this work suddenly had 3 times as much work and, a lot less people to do it. So that meant that then they had to hire a bunch of other people, and those people didn't really know what they were doing. And so you'd have these mistakes that were like $1 million mistakes sometimes in billing or, with rates, whatever. And so then I would kind of get called in to sort of forensically figure out what happened, try to contain the problem, and then find a way to break the news to the various parties that needed to be alerted to that in the way that sound the least horrible. So yes, it was a lot of creativity in figuring out how to do all that, but it didn't leave much room for painting. So I'd only get like an hour, 2 hours tops in the morning. And in the last year that I was working there, I barely, the job kept encroaching on my creative time. And it just got to the point where I was starting to breathe funny, and I remember calling my mom and saying, I've got this presentation for art that I've got to do, and I can't seem to get it done. And she said, Emily, you are not having an art crisis. You are having a work crisis. You need to quit that job. So I thought, all right, okay, I'm going to just dive into the unknown. I'll just do it. So that's what I ended up doing.
So Emily, how did you end up going in the direction of that job in the first place? What was it about was it educational? Was it professional? How did you?
So I get along really well with lawyers. I always have. I like the sequential mind and the problem solving that they do. And a lot of them are very good writers. So I used to do a lot of project work before I met my husband, because they pay really well. So I'd have something expensive I wanted to do, and I'd get these project jobs, and that would cover the cost. And then I'd try to take a month or 2 off to actually do the thing I wanted to do, and that worked great as long as I was single. The problem happened when I got married. So I love my husband, and I wouldn't be me without him, really. It's just when you're single, you can be bopping around here and there and kind of living a bit of a wayward, itinerant lifestyle. Isn't that fun and exciting? But with 2 people, it's too much stress. So we needed something a little more stable, and we needed a focus because we're 2 very creative people. So we thought, okay, we're going to have, let's have a recording studio. And he looked at me and he's like, well, you're the native English speaker. So how about you go get the full-time job? And so I said, okay, I'll go do that. And I thought 1 year, I'm going to do it for 1 year. And I got this job that that is the story of this episode here. And in the process, that was the most broke I've ever been, actually, when I got that job, because we got all the equipment we needed for the recording studio, and then I'd get my paycheck every month, and I was working crazy hours, and in 5 minutes we would have nothing again because I'd be paying off all these. I got all these credit cards, like the 0% things, to finance this recording studio. So we paid it all off, but it was like, what? This is crazy. So we had a band. We were rehearsing. We were going out and doing shows. We were writing music, and then I was working these 50, 60, sometimes 70-hour weeks. It was nuts. So, yeah, that's, I don't even remember the question now, but that's kind of that's how it all started. And I just didn't really leave because they paid really well. And ultimately my dad got sick, so we moved to Maine, and they let me work remotely. And so it was some more stability for us. And, you get used to having a little bit of extra money, so it was but the more time went on, I was writing less and less songs. I was painting less and less because, each department I was in, somebody would promise me the next department's going to be less work, and it would be more than the one that I left, to the point where it was just I'd have these all I could do at the end of the day was watch plane crash investigations or something, because it's it's sequential and you can tie it up with a bow at the end, And then I'm like, what is wrong with this? I'm only getting an hour in the morning to paint, and I'm having to scrape that. And so I needed to kind of be more in touch.
You just described getting to the end of the day and really only having the brain width to just watch, I don't know, plane crash investigations. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How did that work into your ability to even give yourself enough creative space in the mornings to paint for an hour? Because I know when I've had jobs that were all consuming, pulling back the time to write for me was, the time was hard enough. But then it would take me a long time to get my neurons lined up back again so that I could actually put something out into the world that that made me happy.
Yeah, I think what I did was the first thing I started painting on painted pottery, because it's a lot simpler and you have the element of surprise with a kiln anyway. So I didn't make any of this stuff. I would just paint on it, and that was simpler. And then I was like, okay, this is fun, but I really need to start painting. I just started working small, and I thought I need to do stuff that is like a dream. You kind of download it, so you don't have to think. It's not a thinking process. It's a come through you first thing in the morning when you're not really awake anyway. So you've got that sleep time that you've regenerated. And I read somewhere, give your best time to your art. So I thought, well, that's got to be the morning because my eyes aren't tired from looking at monitors all day, And so I would just get these little, intuitions paint this, and just let my hand go and not think too much. And if it was small, I could get it done in a day, in a morning, and then wait till the next day to see, do I like this, and make any final things. And so I just painted really small because that's all I could do. Yeah. So the best thing about leaving is now I can paint big and take, 3 weeks or a month to work on something, because I've got the time to let things, like you said, sort of marinate and not be so time constrained.
Talk to me about the pieces that we have here. I mean, they're so beautiful. And when I first looked at them, because you sent some ahead of time, immediately to me, it felt aligned with this sort of herbalism tradition, which I know that you're also interested. I don't know that it's specific to herbalism, but the natural world. The natural world and the cycles and the seasons. I just think there's a lot going on that when you're rushing around, maybe it starts to feel like, oh, we're born and then we die and we've got, one life to live. And I don't really think, if you think about seeds and about cycles of plants, I don't really think it works like that. I think seeds look dead. They're crumpled and shriveled, but they've got DNA in them and they create more life.
And so maybe it's like we have many lifetimes. And like even when you get a little bit older, then you've got like kind of a richness that comes from within. And I just think plants kind of show that. They show the whole life cycle in seasons. And to me, that's a very hopeful message. And this one in particular is called Path Forward. And I really have been thinking about like, where are we as humans right now, and what plants would be useful for us as an inspiration to move forward in a way where we work together and we think about longevity of good ideas that work for a lot of different kind of people. Maybe people don't see that when they look at it, but I was, like that's what I think of when I see it, because this is elderberry. It blooms in the spring. You can make a wine out of it with the blooms, and then in the fall it creates these purple berries. And if you make like a lot of people historically have taken that as a health elixir to live a good, healthy life, because you don't want to live a long time if you're sick all the time. You want to be in good health. So I just think it's a hopeful plant, and it's kind of it's making a new space in reality. It's making an opening for something positive and new that's not one side or another. It's just its own thing. And I think a lot of times when cool inventions happen, they take an old tired argument and kind of are like, yeah, that's kind of irrelevant now. We've got this cool thing that's going to help us, It's going to make us inspired to think in a different way, think of new possibilities, get excited about something instead of just fighting, So that's not like exactly all that I was thinking when I was doing it, but that's kind of what's in my heart. And it was more just like, oh, I see distance, I see like a road and a plant that's here to help us.
I love what you're describing and the visual metaphor that you're putting out there. And it's something that I've also thought a lot about. And I think this was the reason that you and I was like, okay, now is the time that we need to get Emily on, because we were having a conversation around work that I've been doing. And I was having a hard time putting words around it. And you're like, oh, so it's a yin process.
Yeah.
And I was like, she totally understands. She understands this idea of that sort of drawing in and things that need to emerge, and then understanding what comes as a result of that. And when I look at this, it is an interesting mixture of sort of yin and yang, because you have the sort of drawing in, but then also the fruition.
And the glow.
And the glow, right. And there is the seed is very, of course, that very yin, but then growth and blooming, that's very yang.
Yeah.
So I think we are in a world, and it sounds like your job is similar to jobs that I've had, that are very sort of outward energy focused. Everything is like big and bright and crisis and this and that, and being able to have even the temporal availability of resources to contemplate a different way of approaching life is not always easy.
Well, but see, before I did that job, I was kind of more in the mode that I am now. I'm just a lot happier now, because I have more focus with what I'm doing. And that's the part that wasn't there when I was younger. So I did a lot of wild and crazy things. But now I'm kind of more like a pancake. I'm like sort of right in the middle, and maybe not as exciting like my current life. It's like, oh, I just spend a lot of time in the studio and then I go out to openings or whatever. But I understand the unstructured time thing and the, like set some goals and make some things happen. But when you're in the studio, let things flow. Have a yin approach, but make sure you have the yang goals at the same time, So it wasn't hard that way. It was just a little scary because it's like, oh, what if I screw this up and I don't paint? What if on day one I'm done with the job and the problem wasn't the job, the problem was me, Like that was my big worry was, am I going to screw this whole thing up? Because a lot of things had to align where I could actually leave and not be in financial trouble or something. So that was scary, but I very clearly remember the last day of the job, I packed up all my stuff, and in the morning I drove it over to send it all back to them. Like, here you go, here's all your gear that I used. And then I went right into my studio, and it was like there was this pile of ideas that had been patiently waiting for some time. Yeah. And so they just started coming out, and I'm like, oh, wow, I actually have a trajectory and like I have themes that are going. And that's the thing I didn't really have before. I mean, I painted, but not like I am now. So I don't think I could have done this any sooner than now.
Well, something that has struck me in my own life is that financially, there are things that when you're earlier on professionally that you just do need to put money towards.
Yep.
So for me, it happened to be medical school loans that I needed to pay off, and also children and mortgages, things like that. And so it did make a lot of sense at the time to really engage in kind of a corporate medical structure, because that is just what worked out financially.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. And you do learn things from that. And you do engage in a way that I found very rewarding in many.
I would say I really hated doing the job for most of the time I was doing it. I loved the people I worked with, but I really didn't love the culture. But I think looking back now, I can say it's helped me so much because I got a lot of confidence. Once you're used to dealing with $1 million mistakes, and how you're going to talk to this person that's billing over $2,000 an hour, and how you talk to the clients and all this stuff, and you manage to do that, and it's like these planes coming in to land, and they're coming in every 60 seconds. So you kind of can't freak out about the thing that's 5 minutes away, because you're busy just making sure the stuff right in front of your face. Like once you do that enough, I just stopped being so afraid to kind of put myself out a little more. It's like, what am I going to lose here? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? People are going to think I'm a total goofball. I already am a total goofball. What do I have to lose? So I think it and also just how much you can get done in a day. That's the other thing. I've always been a hard worker, but this was just like crazy. So I thought, all right, I know I can do this stuff. I know I can do it. Let's just see if the flow is there for me. So I'm grateful. This has only been since May 1st, so I'm still in process and unfolding and all that, but it feels very different than before. And like I said, a lot of things align to make this right time. So if you're listening to this and it's not the right time, don't feel bad, because it wasn't the right time for me for a long time. I guess I just needed to have that time there to develop some stuff that was kind of missing.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly the point I was trying to make. And so there's the financial reasons why you go into something, whatever it is, whatever your life needs at that moment. But also you are building skills, and you are building confidence, and it's not that anything's really wasted. It's not like you spent 15 years and you didn't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
It just, when you kind of realize, all right, this particular plane has landed. I am getting off because I need to move into my next life.
Yeah.
And I think that actual physical sensation that you just described is something that, I actually, towards the end of the job that I left, so then again, we're talking our parallel paths here.
Yeah.
I actually was literally getting chest pain. And I said to my mother, I said, Mom, I could be having a heart attack right now, because I feel like this is a physical sensation.
Yeah.
And it was such a, like your head may be able to lie to you, but your body is not going to lie to you. This is not where you need to be anymore.
Yeah, and it's interesting which part of your body you feel the pain in, because different people feel it in different areas. So that's interesting that it was heart area for you. Mm-hmm. It's like almost a heartbreak if you don't make the change, and it's more like lungs for me, which is kind of a little more like sorrow, that I was worried that I just was never going to get a chance to express myself artistically in a more committed and focused way.
So tell me about this other piece, because
the
story around the first one is so powerful, and this other one has a very different feel to it.
This is called Once an Ocean, and it's circular. So
I'll hold it over here.
Okay. That one, I was listening to a podcast called Dialogue Works. They were talking about Iran, and I just, for a lark, was like, I'm just curious to see what kind of beautiful Iranian flowers there are. And I was kind of looking at some of that, and they have these cool lilies and tulips and stuff. And I just thought, those are so cool. I'm going to find a way to, kind of put them into a similar format. And I just got thinking about a lot of the more arid areas they probably at some point really were an ocean. Like if you go to New Mexico, you'll find fossils, that's what they're called, of fish and stuff. So I just thought, well, that was once an ocean, and there's beautiful things in every part of the world. And so I don't know, that's what I was thinking with that one. But it's still got that same, like, let's split what we know and make some room for something new, something beautiful. There's a third way. We don't have to be fighting. So I just always think about that.
Knowing that your mom is Jane Damon.
Yes.
And
I'm so lucky.
you are lucky. Yeah. She truly is a wonderful person and also a beautiful artist.
Yeah.
She works a lot of nature into her pieces.
Yep.
How were you influenced by being around her doing the work that she's done for such a long time as you've continued to evolve your own art?
Part of it was seeing her working in her studio, and she said a very cool thing to me that I never forgot. In fact, I wrote a song about it. She said, doesn't matter the mood you go when you go into your studio, when you come out, you'll feel better, which is kind of like saying, don't be dependent on a good mood to paint. Just go in there and have faith that when you get out of your own way, stuff will start flowing. So that was a huge help. She actually, in the town we used to live in, she formed this thing called the Emerson Umbrella. So up in Belfast, there's Waterfall Arts. They did a similar thing. It's when there's a school building that the town isn't using anymore. If artists are smart, they jump at the opportunity to make that into artist space, and usually the town will like sell it to them for $1, and then they have to assume the expenses of upkeep. So she did that at a time when I don't know how often that was happening, but I saw her have to write notes and go up in front of a whole bunch of people and give a speech, and so that's where her studio was. So I saw that, like, that was pretty cool. And the other huge thing that she did for me was she just was always saying, look at that field. Look at all the different colors in the grasses, or just, like, look at the trees. Look how when the wind blows them, there's one color underneath the leaf and one on the other. She just was always, without meaning to, maybe telling us to notice how beautiful all the colors in nature are. And so it's just hardwired into my brain.
One of the things I've really enjoyed about knowing your mother for a while is seeing the way that she's moved from one set of subjects to another set of subjects, but then she'll weave some of the first subjects back into later pieces. Birch trees are very prominent, rivers are very prominent, and then they kind of recede and something else comes to the forefront. But then always this just colors and colors and colors. So your pieces are very, very different, but I love all the motion and the colors. And
Thank you.
It really feels unique, the work that you've done.
Thank you.
and I know that with your mother, it was also fascinating to me that you could have pieces that were so unique, but also have some similarities.
I would say that I have witnessed her going from like more representational to more abstract. She goes back and forth, and each time she returns to the representational, gets a little deeper because she's been going in an abstract, and likewise with the abstract, it gets deeper after she's had spent a time in the representational world. And I think for artists that have different stuff they work on, probably they might struggle a little more with like, why all these different things? But it's just how she is, and then there's other artists that just kind of like do one thing and they do it really well. It's just a little bit more narrow, but it can be awesome too. So you bring to your art whatever is in you. And my mom has different areas of her life that are different. So you're seeing that in the style of the work, but you can always tell a Jane Damon. And hopefully you can tell my work, it's me,
Yeah.
It's like, that looks like me. Okay.
So tell me about your music. Is that still strong for you?
It's right now, I am kind of all in on the painting, and I'm very grateful to my husband for being patient because I know we're going to do music again at some point. I know it. I have a feeling like it's going to come in a few years. So he's right now being the primary wage earner. And I think at some point we're going to, both of us, be in a place where we're not doing the day job grind. And I think at that point we will we will start putting music out again in a I'm not going to give up on this either. But right now, there was such a buildup of stuff that hadn't been expressed for so long. I'm just kind of like, I can't do anything except for be thinking about the art right now.
Did the two of you meet through music?
Before I met Lenny, I had this strange, like, I'd say about 3 months before I met him, I had a strange pull to learn Spanish. So I have a lot of Colombians in my family through marriage. So I'd always heard Spanish, and I have an affinity for languages, but I hadn't really ever committed myself to becoming fluent. And I thought, this is not okay. I need to do this right now. And so I just became obsessive about learning Spanish. And I thought, boy, I need a new musical partner. I really need that. And then I thought, also, I need like a romantic, like I need a boyfriend who doesn't speak English and speaks Spanish, because I think it's either I have to go to a foreign country and just live there where nobody speaks English, or I need a boyfriend that doesn't speak English. I kid you not. 3 months later, I get a ticket to go to this performance at Berklee College of Music, and there I met my future husband playing all these mesmerizing Andean instruments. I was blown away, and he was kind of like 2 in 1. So we just started playing music together, recording together, because I had all these songs, and I have kind of a soft singing voice. It's got a good tone, but it's not super loud. I'm not a belter. And a lot of the Andean instruments, like the pan flutes and like bamboo flutes, and then charango, and classical guitar, they're soft, and so you can create these songs that are kind of like a river flowing, and it's handed off to the singer, and then it's handed off to the instruments. And a lot of Andean music is that way. There'll be some singing, and then there'll be some interludes, and it's not just like 4 bars of a guitar solo, and then no, there's all this rich tapestry of different instruments, and he plays all these instruments. So I mean, I was just like, wow, my whole world opened up when I met him. So
it sounds like for you, you need to be aware of how you conjure things up if you asked for this.
There are times when what I want kind of seems to align with what is in store for me, and those happen really fast. And there's other times I desperately wanted things and they just didn't happen. So, but yeah, that was one that I think was like whoosh, going in the direction that I was supposed to go anyway. So it was really weird. I was like, wait a minute, I asked for those 2 things. And I had this weird job before I met Lenny too, that was, I got hired to like sit in front of a phone that literally never rang, and there was internet there. So I remember discovering this little thing called, it just went right out of my head. Oh, it's like a thing for slang in foreign languages. I had it and then it went out of my head. And I just was on it all day. I was like, all right, okay, there's 2 things I need to do. I need to learn all the words that are stuff that I'm interested in. Because if you study languages in like adult ed or whatever, it's all like travel stuff. And I'm like, I'm not really traveling. I need music stuff. I need emotional stuff. I need intellect, like thought stuff that I care about. I want to know all those words. And so I made a list of all the words that I use, and I looked them all up. And then I was like, all right, now I've got to read a book in Spanish. So I did that. And then finally I'm like, I just have to start speaking. So I was home living by myself. And I think my neighbors thought I was nuts, because I'd just sit there and like try to talk in Spanish. So that's what I did to learn. So by the time I met Lenny, I was able to be weirdly, wrongly, but you could still understand me conversant. And he was patient with me. So I'm like, you got the point, but it wasn't quite right, because it's like when a pie falls over, or cake, and then you like write it and try to make it look like it didn't fall over. It's a little weird, but it did the trick. We were able to communicate.
Talk to me about moving back to Maine, or moving to Maine.
Oh, yeah.
You hadn't moved here before.
Well, my dad got Alzheimer's. And a wonderful thing about having a Latin husband, family is very important in South America, Central America. And so he looked at me and he said, we should move up now, because we're going to have to struggle a little to settle in, and we don't want to be doing that. And like, it's total crisis hour. So let's move up now before things are really bad, and then we can be there to help. So we just we just moved. I don't know. I told my job, I'm out of here. And then my last day, they're like, hey, would you be willing to work remotely? And I'm like, yes, I would. So that's what we did long before COVID. So yeah, I was just home, and then I would go over and we call it dad sitting, and he had like one of those long Alzheimer's things. It took a while before it got really bad. So it was like, every month or so you'd notice more things that were marking the disease taking its effect. But I wouldn't really trade that time because I just got so much time with my dad, and he was a happy Alzheimer's patient. Like sometimes if you have a lot of unresolved stuff, you end up kind of, but he was, really a wonderful, it was a good experience for all of us. So I don't regret it. I sleep really well at night.
I remember going to visit your mother and father.
Yeah.
And it was, I think he had been diagnosed, but he was with your mother showing us around the property. So there's this and there's this and come over here and here's Jane's studio. And I just really enjoyed being with both of them because there was just a lot of love and caring.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as though here's this person with this problem. It's just, here's this person and here we are.
Right. Yeah, he had really good language ability. So for a long time, when he would forget words, I could tell because I knew him well when he was diverting to a different bridge because that bridge was blown out. So it's like, he would have 5 ways to be able to say things. So even if 4 were blown out, he maintained that for a long time into his disease. So, yeah. He'd make us laugh a lot.
Well, I can recognize this in the time that I had with my father because he ended up with cancer that went to his brain.
Oh, wow.
And so I could tell things were not going well because clearly he was a physician and he was very intellectual. So the same thing kind of happened. I love what you just described. Like that bridge is gone, that bridge is gone, that bridge is gone. But then here's this other bridge that's still there.
Yeah.
And it still was a really wonderful experience to be able to interact, whatever bridge was left.
Yeah.
Like however they show up, it's still the time that's still really important. So the fact that you moved back before things got really terrible.
Credit my husband with that.
Yeah. And it is really important because I think when you come into a situation when things are already in crisis, then you don't get to appreciate kind of the final time with someone that can be quite beautiful.
And I will say the law job did help me with all that too, because near the end of my dad's life, we were in the habit of making sure mom would go away for a week or two, kind of once every 3 or 4 months, because it's so much to be the primary caregiver. So she went off to Ireland, and my dad fell and broke his hip. And I didn't really want to tell her because I was like, God, she just got away from all this. Like, I didn't know it was so close to the end. So there's a lot of things you have to do when you have an elder parent with a sort of like we don't want to prolong things that don't need to be, you just have to jump through a lot of different little circles to kind of rules with Medicare and hospitals and all this. And I just remember I was camping out at the 5th place that I had to be because he couldn't go back to the place he was. And I thought, geez, my law job really has prepared me for this because it's just one thing after another. And I'm just like, all right, I just call work, be like, hey, I'm doing this other thing today. And it's just like work. It was like, okay, we got to go over here. We got to beg this person to get him there, but we can only do it in this window. And I got to call Medicare and I got to call the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't faze me. So I guess it was good for that. But I did call my mom eventually. I was like, you might want to come home. This is kind of serious.
How did she respond?
She came home and was great. I mean, yeah, she was great. It was a weird magical thing. Yeah. All the way that happened. So it's too long to go into. I don't want to bore you, but it worked out. There was an angel on my shoulder or something that kind of made it all work, that he was able to go back to the nursing home where he was, and spend, and do hospice there because it was crazy.
I think the other thing as I'm hearing you talk that I'm reminded of is you at least my experience of being with my father and my mother during this time was that when you're in it, you think you have all the time in the world. And then the end is really compressed.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how fast things happen once they get to that place. And you just don't really know. You don't foresee it because sometimes it's taken a really long time to get to that place.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like you have a medical background. I did a lot of healing work, so I understand like subtle energy stuff, but I hadn't really witnessed someone actually die. So, and the nurses didn't really feel comfortable to be direct about it. I'm actually fine with death, so it would have been a little more helpful if I had known, okay, we're going to start morphine and he's never going to wake up. He'll be, there, but he's not going to open his eyes again. Would have really helped me. I could have warned my brother sooner so he could have come, but it was what it was. So I just remember calling my brother. I'm like, I'm really sorry. Like, you're going to have to get on a red eye right now because there's not too much. It's like days and hours now, and I didn't know. So yeah, that was the only too bad thing. But I think probably other people like, so they try to kind of soft pedal it. So, but you can still talk to your loved one heart to heart. So that's what we did once he was in that situation. It's like, all right, seemed like death is kind of like birth. Actually, it's strange. It's like, I never had kids, but from what I hear, you want to have the kid and the kid just takes the time, the baby takes the time it's going to take before it comes out. And death is kind of like that too. It's like the person's got to let go, and you're kind of in a holding pattern while they're figuring that all out. And I remember finally at some point just being like, all right, Dad, there's this light, kind of go towards it if you want. I think that's kind of be the easier way. We're fine here. You don't have to worry about us. Just send me a message when you get to the other side. I know you got this. You got this. I remember telling him that. I don't know. And then I was like, send me a dream. Come to me in a dream or something when you get to the other side. It'll be good. You don't have to worry, because he was always really afraid of death. I was like, it's going to be all right.
Oh, that's interesting. Did he tell you that?
Oh, he didn't have to tell you. He just he would get glued onto these TV shows about like operations about death and all this. He would just be like this. And I'm like, I would tease him about it a little, because I'd be like, it's not really the ending, Dad, but I think for him, it kind of was. That's how it felt to him.
Did he send you a message from the other side?
Yes, he did. So, three notable things. There was a woodpecker the morning that the overnight when he died, that like woke us up at like 5 a.m. Bang, 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 like right outside of our window where we're sleeping. And I didn't kind of put two and two together, but I was like, my dad was an early riser, so I was kind of like, And then his favorite flower just started blooming all around the side of our house that summer that had never been there before. And then 3 weeks after he died, I sort of thought, well, I guess he's not going to come to me in a dream. I know he's fine, because there was this really good feeling after he had passed away. So I thought, all right, if he's not going to come, it's okay. I had plenty of good time with him. But after I kind of let that go, I did have a dream with him. And I'm like, Dad, how are you? And he's like, I'm fine. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm learning about world religions. And I was like, okay. I was like, how was your death? And then he was like, it was fine. And then all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. I was like, like that, because he had some trouble breathing before he passed away. And so I think his death was actually hard for him. So I think he didn't really like to talk about stuff, but I got the felt sense of that. And so I woke up, I was like, yeah, it wasn't too fun for him, but he's good now. And so that I was like, thank you. That's what I wanted to just talk to you one more time. So
Emily, I love that you are so fully integrative of your hard lines and your soft curves. Like I look at your art and there's that. And I, as I'm hearing you talk, I'm hearing sort of I can absolutely, knowing I have legal people in my family, and I can absolutely kind of get that, how you would have been very successful doing that work. And also, I love that you're completely open to your intuitive side. And I think that's rare. Some people have to go in one direction or another always and never get back to the other place where they can integrate both. And that's just the sense that I'm getting of you now, that you've gotten pretty far down that path of being able to incorporate these things.
I hope so. I hope so. I actually think there's a lot of intuitive people that work in law firms because lawyers need you to anticipate their needs because they're kind of like Ferraris. They're like, you're always worried they're going to bust a rod or something. So they need a huge support staff around them, and they kind of need to be almost 2 steps ahead of where the attorney is. But I also think that it's corporate culture tends to be very like people go along with whatever upper management says, and that really blocks you from your intuition. So there's a lot of sensitive people there who maybe are not fully honoring their nervous system's signals, which are very subtle. And it's just so great to be out of that now because I don't have all that busyness and frenetic, 5-alarm fire, so you can just listen and pick up on the little quiet things that are actually pretty awesome. They're like the early indicators of where you need to go and keep you out of trouble kind of stuff. And if you're not hearing those, you can kind of end up having to backtrack sometimes more than you would like to. But yeah.
Where can people see your art?
They can go to Blue Door Gallery currently. I have about 6 pieces down there in York. They can also go to my website, which is Emily Sabino Art. You can also get there if you do sonicuplift.com. That also works. I'm in the process of switching those two. But yeah, they can go there. And yeah, my website has like all the places where I'm showing different, group shows too. So
okay,
yeah,
very good. Well, I appreciate your coming in and talking to me about your journey. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Lisa Belisle, and you've been listening to or watching Radio Maine, our video podcast, where we explore and celebrate creativity and the human spirit. Today I've been speaking with artist Emily Sabino. I do encourage you to learn more about the work that she's doing in any of the places that she's mentioned. And I'm also hoping that she will continue to come to our art gallery openings at the Portland Art Gallery, and sometimes often bringing her lovely mother. So you'll get an opportunity to see her there. And I hope to see you again there sometime soon.
Me too.
Thank you.